What's up, everybody? This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, your host of MrGentleman Like That podcast, and this week's sponsorship is from Newsly. Newsly is a all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and read them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in ever of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable, all in one place. Browse articles from topic choose, start playing, start scrolling, and start listening. You can follow any topics as you specifically as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin, even for the Kardashians. It will find you on the latest article and you read them to you out loud. And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. Our podcast, MrGentleman Like That podcast, is on there as well. Yes, it is. Shout out to Newsly for that. I started using it as my default podcast app. Download and use Newsly for free from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description. Use the promo code MrGentleman that I will also put in the description and receive 1 month free premium subscription. So you already know, y'all, download Newsly now. Check it out. Support them, y'all. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, your host of MrGentleman Like That podcast, and enjoy the show. You are now listening to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast Season 7. Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, 1/4 of the Premier Boys podcast, and your host of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And welcome to another new episode of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Hope all is well. Episode 129 of the main series of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast, Season 7, Episode 5. I know it's been a while. We took a short break, but we are back with a new episode of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. I know my voice sounds a little bit different because I am under the weather, but either way, I do go bring y'all a new episode. Yeah. And on this episode, she is my first new guest of the season. She is a podcast host. She's done many things from production, radio, and many more. She got a podcast show called Better Call Daddy Podcast. And we're going to talk to her about everything that she do, her podcast show, and many more. This was an amazing conversation, and I can't wait for y'all to check out this episode. So y'all already know what to do. Sit back, relax, and I'll be right back.
Hey, it's Angelica from A Little Bit of Everything with Me podcast, and you're listening to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Now it's time for MrGentleman Facts Quote of the Day. And today's quote of the day is, if you're passionate about something, do all you can to make it work. Make sure your passion is not your hobby. And I say this because if you really love something, you have something that you always want to do, you will do all you can to make it work. Do not make your passion into your hobby, because if you feel that way about your passion, everybody else gonna feel that way about your passion. They're gonna treat it like a hobby and not gonna take you serious at all. So if you love something, do all you can to make it work. Do not treat your passion like it's your hobby. That is today, but the gentleman facts quote of the day. Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, and I am the host of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And this commercial break is brought to you by MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. On MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast, we interview many guests about their life journey, pretty much where they come from and where they at now. Also promoting their brands or whatever they're doing at the time they come on the show. We also have the host talk about personal stories about himself and everything that he's been through. And also we have fun conversation about anything music, anything old school, relationships, wrestling, and many more. And y'all can tune in to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast every Sundays at 12 a.m. We are also on every Thursdays at 12 a.m. for Spin-Up Series Thursdays, where we have all of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast spin-off series all in one day, where we have a conversation about music podcasts every first Thursday at 12 a.m. The Old School Show with myself and the Star Riding Rod every fourth Thursday at 12 a.m. And we have Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B every second and third Thursday at 12 a.m. And y'all can tune in to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, The Pods, and many more. Or y'all can check it out on the official website of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast, www.realmrgentlemanlifestylepodcast.com, www.realmrgentlemanlifestylepodcast.com. And tune in every Sundays and Thursdays at 12 a.m. for MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in to this commercial break of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Back to your regularly scheduled program. Cheer!
What is up? It's Reena Friedman Watts, host of the Better Call Daddy Show. And I am so excited to be here with Ken of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. You guys are in for a treat.
Yes, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. And at this time, I got my special guest. She is actually the first new guest I got this season. You know, she is a podcast host. She got a podcast show called Better Call Daddy Podcast. And she does many other things, and we're going to talk today about it. We got Miss Reena Friedman Watts in the building. Reena, how you doing?
I am doing awesome. How are you? Yes, Thank you so much.
yes, you are very welcome. And you know, kind of a little hoarse, but I'm here and happy to have you. Cause you are literally the first new guest I have this season. So,
wow, I am honored.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since I had a guest, so I'm a little raspy with it. Hopefully, we got this. We got this.
You got that radio voice going on. It's good. It's good.
I try. But before we dive into everything that you do, we're gonna do a little icebreaker stuff first. So we're gonna start with, where are you from?
I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, born and raised there. I lived there most of my life, and then I've lived a bit all over the place since then, and I'm currently in Texas.
Oh, nice. You know, me, I'm from New York, so, you know, Yeah, yeah. So, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
3 words. I would say I'm a connector, a story chaser, and an extrovert.
Good choices. Good choices. That is really good choices. What is one thing that you like to do at your own time?
When I am not chasing stories or chasing children, I love to just either go on a walk and, listen to a podcast or read a book because I am constantly trying to learn new things.
Nice. It's always good to learn new things, so that's really good. But speaking of podcasts and stuff, what is in your headphones right now? It could be a song, an album, or a podcast.
Well, it's funny that you asked. So before I go on podcasts, I like to know who I'm talking to. So what was in my headphones was you on the podcast, A Little Bit of Everything with me. I listened to your episode and found out more about you before coming on here. And I think that as a podcast guest, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, it is. And thank you for that. Thank you for that. And shout out to Angelica, by the way. Shout out to Angelica. So now we're going to talk about, your life journeys. So let's talk about how you are growing up.
Yeah, growing up, I was the oldest of 3 girls and definitely a daddy's girl. I am a lot like my dad. My dad is a total personality. I think he's an even bigger personality than me, but he always encouraged me to go after my talents. And I always loved music. I always loved the performing arts. And I feel like that was in my blood. My grandfather loved that. My grandmothers loved that. My dad loved that. And when I was a little girl, I used to like to put on performances for my parents, for my grandparents, and they would applaud me and they'd be kind of in on my performances. And then, that led to me auditioning for a youth performing arts school in high school. I have to say I didn't get in on the first try, so my confidence was a little bit squished. When you don't get in and you think you're the best thing since sliced bread, then you have to kind of humble yourself and take some lessons and learn to blend in with other people and find your voice again. So yeah, I've always had a love of the arts. I've always had a love of creativity, and that's kind of been my people in my circle.
Nice. And I could relate to that. I also always been a creative person as well. Always loved music and everything. So I could definitely relate to that. Yeah, that's really dope. I like that. That's really dope. But how everything that you've been through made you the person that you are today?
Yeah, so actually I feel like my story really started at that youth performing arts school because I went to a private school like kindergarten through 5th grade, and then I begged my parents to go to private school so that I could have more friends and kind of expand my circle. And then when I went to public school, I was very picked on. And so then I was like, wait, maybe I don't like this so much. And so then I auditioned for youth performing arts school, which was a love of mine. I had a love of music and I wanted to be around other people who loved music or loved theater or loved the arts. And when I didn't get into that school and had to work really hard to get into it, I learned that 1, you can always turn a no into a yes. And 2, if you work really hard and you surround yourself by people that are better than you, that will lead to incredible opportunities. And it did. So I wanted to quit that program, by the way, every day for 4 years. But my dad went to bat for me and put his neck out on the line, like saying, I'll get her a teacher. She'll learn how to read music. She'll learn how to pluck out those songs on a piano. She will show up. And so I didn't want to let him down because he did that. And so for 4 years, I endured the pain and continued to show up. And I graduated from that school, which led to me going to a small liberal arts high school on a singing scholarship. But then when I went to that school, it didn't feel as hard as the program that I had been in for 4 years. It wasn't a big enough challenge, and it wasn't really what I wanted. And so I met a guy, and I was a dual major in sports medicine because I wanted to be in shape and I wanted to meet athletes. And he told me, if you want to be in athletic training, you should transfer to a Big Ten school. So I did. It's almost like, try something else.
Yeah.
And so I switched to Purdue University, which I went from 2,500 students to 38,000 students. And what Purdue offered was they had a radio station on campus. And so I walked in there, I said, I'd love to work in radio. And I took a 5 a.m. shift and learned how to run a radio station manually. This is pre-automation. And I found a love there. Not only was I loading the features and the music and learning how to push all the buttons, but when I was done with my work, I was recording myself, I was making air check tapes, and I was learning what it was like to work in radio, which kind of sparked something in me of wanting to work in entertainment.
That's an amazing story. It's like when one thing didn't work out, you went to another thing, and then you're doing even better with that other thing. And the fact that you love radio at such an early age, that's amazing. So I love that story. I love that story.
I wanted to work in radio. I actually sent tapes to a bunch of radio stations. I think I still have some of my air check tapes, on cassettes, but I didn't get, I think I had one offer in a small town in Pennsylvania, but Harrisburg, Pennsylvania or something, but that just didn't really excite me. I don't know. And so then I started looking for other internships through the alumni office, and I got one interview at WGN in Chicago, which was a huge market. And I went up there and I interviewed there. I didn't get the job, but I saw that Jerry Springer was looking for interns in this same courtyard. And so I walked across from WGN to NBC Tower, got an interview at the Jerry Springer Show, and I ended up starting there 2 weeks later.
You know what? Usually I had a different question coming up, but now since you mentioned this one, we're going to talk about that right now. So you had mentioned that you work on the Jerry Springer Show, Nanny 911, and Court TV. How was the experience working on those shows?
I mean, a dream. Especially, I was a small town girl from Kentucky who wanted to work in entertainment, and when that huge show came my way, I didn't even realize at the time how fortunate I was, or what a big opportunity that was. It seemed like it came easy. And so after working on the show for 2.5 years and getting into the Producers Guild of America, I was like, I'm good. I might as well move to LA. I'm big time now, And so I thought, leave on a high note and go work in LA in my 20s when I'm single and I have no responsibilities. And so I literally quit that show with no backup plan. I had money in the bank that I had saved, and I felt like if I could do that, I went from intern to producer in one season. So I was and produced an entire season on top of that, and the season opener for a third season. So I was just I felt burnout and I wanted to work on something else. And I literally packed my bags, moved to LA, knew no one, and started over. And it took some time, don't get me wrong, to get back up to where I was. But I knew that if I was willing to put in the hours and hustle, that I could get back up there, and I did.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. That's really dope. That you went for you work on the Jerry Springer Show. So I know you met him, right? How was he?
Yeah, I was 21 years old. And, at that age, I feel like a lot of people kind of put celebrities on pedestals. I know I did. And I think my entire year of being backstage with him, I was nervous. I was nervous telling him about the guests. I was just trying to follow protocol. I was trying to do everything perfectly. And it was a crazy time to be in television, and just everybody wanted to be around that guy. It was a complete experience. I loved it. Yeah,
and I did watch the show a lot, and it was a fun show. And recipe Jerry Springer, man, definitely a legend.
There's nothing like that environment on any other show that I have worked on. I mean, you lived and breathed that environment. it was just, we were working 7 days straight, 14 days straight, 100-hour weeks. We were pounding the phones for stories. We were babysitting the guests. We were traveling with them. We were chasing them all over Chicago. I mean, it was nuts. And the live studio audience was just, they could have been on the show too. And everybody in the office, you never knew when you were going to become a guest.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like a fun experience, and I'm happy that you went through that experience. That's really dope. That's really dope.
Thank you. Yeah.
You also recorded on Nanny 911 and Court TV. How were those experiences?
Yeah, so Nanny 911 was crazy because, like I said, I moved to LA, and having worked on enough shows of the Jerry Springer Show to get into the Producers Guild of America, I applied to work with this guy who was a post-production producer on a lot of the shows that I would love to work on. And I hit that guy up. I swear to God, I must have sent him my resume 3, 4, 5 times. And finally, he had a role, and it was for a third shift post-production supervisor role. So essentially that translates into hanging out with the editors overnight and making sure all the footage is digitized and that everything is ready for the daytime editors the next day. And I had never worked in post-production before, but it was a foot in the door. And I really feel like I kind of learned from the editors where I was needed and what they wanted to do and what they didn't want to do. And I had to learn what they didn't want to do and do it. So I went from working third shift on Nanny the first season to working days the next 2 seasons, which was awesome because I went from learning where I was needed to then being able to work the primetime shift and just seeing the whole behind the scenes of all the footage, how it comes together, how it's color corrected, how it's voiced, the voiceover work, working with the talent, how they put the show together and what the segments turned into from the raw footage. So it was such a great learning opportunity. And then with the Court TV stuff, that's actually a crazy story too, because when I was in LA, I had interviewed for a post-production supervisor on Judge Alex because they had moved from, I think they were based in Texas at the time. And so they flew me from LA to Texas, and I interviewed for a post-production role. And one of the things that they wanted me to do was edit the show. But as a post-production supervisor, I was more of doing like the coordinating, like making sure the executives got the tapes that they needed, making sure everything was to spec. I wasn't actually pushing any of the buttons and editing anything. And this, that's the thing. Titles can mean different things on different shows and in different places. And so I was flown to Texas, put up in a suite, and asked to cut together a show, which I had no idea how to do. I went through and tried to put something together, and I knew I was not going to get the job. And so what's crazy is, like, a couple of years later, when we had moved as a family from California back to my hometown, the same show was looking for like casting people, and I had kept in touch with them. And yeah, so they needed somebody to go to the courthouses, and the people that were filing small claims cases, those are the stories that these court TV shows pull from. And so I had kept in touch with a contact from LA, and while my kids were in preschool, I kind of inched my way back into working in entertainment. So I would go to all these courthouses. I had special clearance, and I brought like a document scanner, and I would go through all the small claims cases. I made friends with the clerks. I had their cell phone numbers. I knew what kind of stories they were looking for, and I'd go through thousands of cases, and I'd pull all the good ones, and I'd scan them, and I'd send them right back. And I was beating out all the other shows that were doing it because I was making friends with the clerks. I knew what to look for, and I was quick.
And I just want to say thank you for sharing your experience, because I love hearing stories like this. So thank you for this. Cause I love hearing stories like this.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it was a great time, and I still feel like, I know one of your questions that you usually ask is like, what do you want to continue to do? And I just want to continue to build on all of these skills that I feel are intertwined. You know, I've worked in casting, I've worked in post-production, I've put together my own show with my dad, I've booked a guest, and all of these things I love. And the only way to continue to get good at all of these is to continue to sharpen your skills and do things that are hard and continue to teach yourself things and lean into what you're good at. And so, yeah, I'm doing that.
And, you know, keep doing it, because you're killing it right now. You're killing it. You wear many hats, so keep doing it.
Oh, that's sweet. You too. I mean, I see you. You've brought your family into your show. You've collaborated with a lot of people. You've done multiple seasons. I mean, you have to continually reinvent yourself and think about what works, what doesn't work, what do I like doing, what do I not like doing, and work on all those things.
Yeah, that is true. And, you know, even though I'm about to be on 5 years now, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and that's what I'm gonna keep doing. So, thank you for that. And you're doing amazing things too. What inspired you to start the podcast? Tell us about that journey. What made you want to go that route?
Yeah. So, what made me want to do that is I co-hosted a show about 5 years ago, and it was just somebody that I had met through social media, and I liked his content. And he was like, hey, like, I know you used to work in casting. I could use some people on my podcast that you think would be cool. So I started by booking guests on somebody else's podcast. And then he was like, hey, it's just me and this other guy. It'd be interesting to have a female perspective. So then I started like subbing in and being a co-host of a show. And then from doing that, it like sparked something in me. And then I started working for Kathy Heller, and then I worked for a couple other podcasters and influencers with their events and sponsorships. And I was behind the scenes for a long time. And then I was like, wait, the hard part is like booking these big guests, booking these big sponsors, putting together all of this. If I'm doing that for other people, why can't I do it for myself? And so finally, I stepped out from behind the camera and I started doing it for myself. And it's amazing what happens when you do that.
Yeah. So let's talk about your show, Medical Daddy Podcast. How the idea came together, when did you start it, and how does it feel working with your dad on the show?
Thank you so much. Yeah. It came together because my dad, honestly, has always been my number one fan and my number one supporter, and he's always been a complete character. And I feel like he's always wanted his own show. So I knew, one, he would never back out. And two, I knew that he had an interesting perspective and a unique relationship with me that wasn't able to be replicated. So that was kind of like our special sauce. And so he's always been a part of my journey. He's always been who I call, like, through my work life, through my relationship life. I value what he has to say. And so at first I thought, wow, let me share my dad's wisdom with the world. But what's interesting is doing a project with your dad in your 40s. How many people do that? Like, my dad looks forward to us creating something together and reflecting on legacy and learning from all of these people who are on our show. He says they're upping our wisdom rating. And so that has been such a positive thing in both of our lives, and something to look forward to, and something where we can grow together.
And I do love your show. I do listen to your show. If it's not on Good Positive, it'd be on YouTube. I know it's been a while, but I do listen to your show. I am a fan of your show. I love the stories, and they got that coming to your show. I definitely got to catch up, because you do have a lot of guests. But shout out to your show, and I love it that you do with your father. That's amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you. What's your daddy's story?
Me and my father close. We good. Me and my father close and stuff like that. Me and him got the same name. We look alike. I look just like him. So, yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I felt like dads are such an important piece of our lives, especially as a girl. Like, I don't know. I feel like daddy's girls get it, and then girls who don't have that are interested in what that's like. And so there's so many angles around that relationship. It's just truly crazy, like what has come our way from leaning into that as a theme. So, I've featured people who have famous dads, and what is it like to have to live up to that? I've had people that have absent dads. I've had people that have experienced incest. I've had sperm donor dads. I've had just stepdads and dads that became dads later in life. There's just so many subjects around it that I feel like I never would have even thought of that have come my way that are interesting to talk to my dad about. Even, do you talk to your parents about sex? Did he talk to his parents about sex? Like, what are his thoughts about, what's happening even around those conversations today? Like, there are different generational perspectives on every story that comes our way. So I feel like he's adding that. Like, what has his experience been? What has my experience been? Did he have conversations like this? What is it like to have conversations with me about these things?
Yeah, and trust me, I got 3 sisters who are girl dads, so they could relate. So yeah. But let my audience know, where can they listen to your podcast show, Better Call Daddy?
Yes, bettercalldaddy.com is where you can find out more about some of the guests. I have like a blog through there that I've started, which is something that I'm learning how to do. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Reena Friedman Watts.
Okay, nice. So as a podcaster, what have been the biggest challenge as a podcaster?
The biggest challenge as a podcaster is being consistent with marketing. You interview a guest, then you edit the segment, you create graphics, you create clips. It's so much work behind the scenes. And then when you actually publish it, some days you're like all about the marketing, right? And you send them the assets and then some days life happens. Like today, I have a kid sick at home and I have another kid that doesn't have school, and I'm behind on marketing some of my guests. I think you got to find ways to re-collaborate with guests. So whether that's Instagram Live, whether that's Twitter audio, whether that's doing an update story, you have to... I think that the podcast is just kind of an entryway to the relationship, and you have to find other ways to collaborate and other ways to market and other ways to remarket old episodes, because otherwise it's like it's published, you market it for a couple days and then it dies. Yeah. So I would say the biggest challenge is figuring out ways to re-promote and remarket old episodes or even new ones.
I actually agree with you on that. I think I have a hard time doing that as well. Because like you said, like when a new episode come out, people go forget about the old episodes, especially the older episodes. And so I could agree with you 100%. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. So what is the goal for your podcast show, and what message do you want the audience to get out of it?
Yeah, great question. My goal for the podcast is my dad said that he would do another 350 episodes. So my goal is to continue to have this special time with my dad and to get better at the craft and to continue to make people feel seen and heard and do it in a way where I'm not too stressed out from it and I still enjoy it. That's the goal. I want to interview real people, vulnerable people, open book people, people that have overcome and are willing to share lessons unedited. I think that stories like that really connect us all. And I think that today in this world, truthfully, I feel like podcasts are more believable than even the news.
I agree with that. And by the way, congrats on 350 episodes. That's a lot of episodes.
Well, I haven't published that many. I think I'm on like 337-ish. But yeah, I have done that many. And it's impossible not to grow and learn from that many episodes. So as long as I can continue to have fun, and as long as my dad can continue to have fun and wants to do it, I will do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Keep doing it. But speaking of that, on your show, you already interviewed a lot of guests, a whole lot of guests, and that's amazing. So if you had to pick 3 dream guests that you want to interview, who would that be?
I thought about that. One person that I very much admire as an interviewer, I think that she's super relevant and she has access to a lot of people, is Katie Couric. She's had an amazing career. I admire her as a journalist. And she even followed me back on Instagram because I went to one of her events and I took pictures from the audience and I shared relevant things that she said. So I think that that's cool that I broke through the noise enough for her to follow me back. And she's a daddy's girl. I actually read her book. I did ask her, but it takes asking more than once. Yeah. So she is somebody who is definitely on my list. I would like to interview Gabor Mate or his son because truthfully, I like the work that they've done, but I do not agree with them politically right now. And I would like to understand where they're coming from because I have a really hard time understanding it. And maybe if we could have like a diplomatic, nuanced conversation that maybe I could understand them better. So I think that one would be difficult for me, but he is on my list. And the third one, my husband recently took a personality test. It's like 35 pages long, and he dumped it in my lap and was like, hey, we should do an episode about this. So that was sweet. After like 350 plus episodes, my husband said he'd be up for doing an episode with me. So I would like to do that. It'd be really cool if he and I feel like could do that together because it's important to me and I feel like it would help him out knowing me in a way better.
Those are good choices. I think you should definitely do it. You should definitely do that episode. That would be really fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had him like do the daddy reaction before because he is a dad of 4, and if there was a guest who I felt like really related to his story, there were a few, or if the subject matter was something that he was super interested in, I've had him do a couple reactions, but mainly my dad has done all of the reactions. But I think to sit down and interview my husband and actually get his story and dig into what he's found about himself and these assessments, I feel like that might be interesting.
I look forward to that episode. I definitely got to listen to your show more, so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. So thank you. So as you know, we are in a pandemic. I'm not sure if we're still in it. We might be. I don't know. Who knows? But I want to ask you, how did the pandemic affect you, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, it definitely affected me. I feel like, one of those words I chose in the beginning was extrovert. And I was afraid of the world. I mean, there were weeks where I didn't even touch my mail. I was afraid I was going to get something. I became like neurotic. And 2, it's like you don't know what to trust. Like, I feel like there was so much misinformation. So that was really hard. And I still feel like there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of confusion. And so that's why I try to interview people who are smarter than me or have different perspectives than me so that I can expand my consciousness and expand my thinking. Because I even listened to a podcast yesterday, shout out to Everyday Espionage with Andy Bustamante. He was on my show and he is so smart, former CIA. And he was saying that most people stop learning at 25. That is crazy to think about.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is.
So I personally want to push myself to read every day, walk as often as possible, stay in motion. I think that the pandemic really made me think about my mental health and my physical health a lot more. And I think with the chaos of the world, that is something that you can control. You can control your own self-development, and please do it.
Yeah, I agree. I spoke about it on my show a lot. The pandemic affected me a lot. Just like you, I was afraid of a lot of things too. Having so much anxiety and stuff like that, and yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, but I'm glad that we overcame it slowly. And yeah, I do agree. It is do a lot of miscommunication, misinformation, but yeah, we just gotta. I guess we have to just kind of deal with it until something better happen. I guess, but yeah,
yeah. Thank you for being such a light and so positive, and having conversations like these. It's so important.
Yeah, thank you for that. I try my best because I like to be the positive person, but sometimes if one person can't be positive, then who will be? So somebody have to do it, and I don't mind doing it. And I like to spread the information to the show. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. But like it to more lighter note, more of a brighter note. So what is your dream venture? Something that you always want to do?
Dream venture. I have to say, this podcast has kind of been like a dream. When I was a little girl, like I wanted to move to Hollywood. And with technology today, it is unbelievable. Like you can grow an audience, you can put out a quality product, and you can get the attention of networks.
Yeah.
I literally today just talked to a casting director who was looking for a daddy-daughter duo.
Oh, wow.
For something that they are pitching right now. You just never know. Like if you grow an audience on YouTube, if you grow an audience on Spotify, if you take guitar lessons or singing lessons or create art that you love creating. Like I used to love to draw. I used to love to sing. I wrote the Better Call Daddy theme song and collaborated with an artist to put that together. I could go into a booth and then sing it instead of having somebody else on the vocal track. I just want to continue to be creative, continue to iterate, continue to collaborate with other creative people that have talents that complement mine.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. You doing amazing things. You're doing amazing things. I just have to say that.
Thank you.
And I really hope you and your father get that gig, because that's dope. That's really dope. I hope y'all get it for real.
You just never know what the angle is going to be that can turn your story into a dream.
Yeah.
You just have to keep doing the reps.
Yep. Yeah, that why I always said never give up and follow your dreams always, because you just never know what can happen. So
it's so true.
Yeah. So what other projects that you got going on that you have not spoken about yet?
What else do I have going on that I haven't spoken about yet? I actually produce another podcast in the healthcare realm, and I have produced multiple shows in the healthcare realm, and I'm really just their back end. So they have in-house content writers that work with me on the script, and I help them create the intro, outro. I sit on the recording, I edit it, and I send it back to them ready for broadcast. And I actually never would have imagined that would be something that I would end up doing, but I like doing that for the select few. And it's been a really interesting insight into the healthcare community. So what's trending in healthcare? What are the new advances in healthcare? How is technology and AI playing into healthcare? And so sometimes when there's a really good guest on some of the other shows that I've produced, I've ended up taking some of those guests from my clients and having them on my own show if they have a good daddy story.
Nice. And I'm looking forward to everything that you're about to do. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
So, what do you have to say for anybody that's going the same route as you? Say something inspirational, like the podcast, production, everything.
Yeah, I would say as far as inspiration, you need to find a cheerleader, whether it's yourself, whether it's your dad, whether it's a friend, whether it's a teacher. You need somebody. We all need relationships. We all need encouragement. We all need a support system. So whether you find your people on Twitter, whether you find your people on Good Pods, whether you find your people by going to a local theater group or a meetup, everybody needs support. You can't just sit in your house and 100% do things virtually. You got to get out into the world. You got to make friends. We all need each other. We all need relationships. So I would encourage you to find a hobby, find a group, find a support system, find encouragement. It will help you grow and it will make you a better person.
And that was a good message. And I 100% agree with you. We do need to support each other, and we do need each other's help. So I agree with you 100%. And thank you for that. So before you go, we're gonna play a segment game called 5 Random Topics. We're actually 5 random topics, and you just let me know what it is. I would join in on this as well. So are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
All right. So the first question I'm gonna ask is, what is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I'm so 80s. I have to say, probably Pump Up the Volume. Did you watch that?
I know I watched a lot of movies. I feel like I did, but I probably can't remember it. But I feel like I did. I did. I may have to refresh my memory on it.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's one of those ones that I tried to memorize words to.
And I'm a big movie. I'm 80s movie fan too. I'll be old school period, but one of my favorite movies I would say is The Last Dragon that came out in 1985. It's a martial arts movie. I grew up with that movie, so I'm just gonna say that.
Cool.
What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? I love sushi. I do pick it up as a treat pretty much every Friday night dinner.
Nice. I know. I mean, I like sushi too. I'm not gonna lie. I must say my favorite food is Thai food.
Oh yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
Pad Thai is amazing.
Yeah. I like pad Thai as well. Like, what is your favorite type of music?
My favorite type of. Can you say that again?
Your favorite type of music.
My favorite type of music?
Yes.
Well, I have to say that I'm a Swiftie, and my daughter made me go to the Taylor Swift movie, which is 3 hours long, and she's gone to it 3 times, and she said she would have gone to it a 4th. I did enjoy it 1 time through, but I definitely don't know if I could do 4 times.
I mean, Taylor Swift, she cool. Shout out to Taylor Swift. She is doing amazing things. I gotta say that she's doing amazing. I'm not gonna lie. My favorite type of music is old school R&B.
I love that too. Definitely.
Yeah, what is one movie that made you cry?
Beaches. Every time with Bette Midler. Oh my gosh. Yes, I loved that Wind Beneath My Wings.
That's a good choice. I know for me, I'm gonna say this movie called A Walk to Remember. Mandy Moore. Yeah, it was a pretty sad movie.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. It came out. I believe it came out like late 90s, early 2000s. I might be wrong, but I think that might be the year. It's called A Walk to Remember.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, it's a good movie. And last one, what is your 2024 goal? 2024 goal.
2024 goal. is to have balance in my physical health, my mental health, and my spiritual health. I feel like and I've said this, I feel like this is my like New Year's resolution all the time, is that I let my physical health go. And, you know, both of us are connecting on a day where we're getting over a cold. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Like, you can't be effective in any other areas of your life. And so I've got to stop making excuses, and I need to 30 minutes a day, get that in and make it a priority. And also, even just thinking about God or having a brief conversation with God, it doesn't have to be formal, but I want to make more of an effort there too. I do think it's crazy. I hadn't prayed in months. And last night before I went to bed, I decided to read some Psalms. And then today I ended up connecting with a casting director. Not that you can say necessarily, you know, that one thing leads to another, but I am kind of a believer in that.
Yeah. But that's really good. I mean, I also agree with you on that as well. I'm focused on my mental and physical health as well. Just like I said, we got the cold, so work on that, so we won't get sick again, and work on me working out more. That's one of my goals that I'm going to focus on for 2024. I call it some more podcast stuff, but we're gonna say that for later. but Miss Reena, thank you for coming on the show. It was an amazing conversation, and I really enjoy everything that you're doing. And thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
I am so excited that we finally got to do this. Thank you so much. You have such a great positive energy, Ken. Keep up the good work.
Yes, thank you. And you keep up the good work as well. And before you go, drop your social media where everybody can reach you, and drop everything that you're doing so everybody can listen to the show and everything.
Yes, I am super active on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter at Reena Friedman Watts. Would love to cross-connect with you on all of those platforms, and make sure that you leave Ken a 5-star review on this episode and say that you loved our episode together. That would make my day.
Yes, and also check out Better Call Daddy podcast on all podcast platforms. It's an amazing show. Many guests you can pick from, and amazing stories. So check it out, y'all. Thank you, and we'll be right back. Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman. Now, I am the host of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast, and this commercial break is brought to you by MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast presents Spinoff Series Thursdays. And Spinoff Series Thursday is the new home for MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast Spinoff Series that brought to you shows like A Conversation About Music Podcast, The Old School Show, and Date Night Talk Podcast. And A Conversation About Music Podcast is a music spin-off series where we talk about anything music, from the current music scene and the old school music scene, where we interview many guests that's in the music industry and artists about their music journey. We have a segment game called The Face Off, which is a versus inspired game. And we have roundtable discussion about variety of music topics. And y'all can check out A Conversation About Music Podcast every first Thursday at 12 a.m. Every first Thursday at 12 a.m. Now, the Old School Show that features myself and the star Roddy Rod is a show where we discuss anything old school, from music, TV shows, movies, and many more. We also bring in guests to join in on the old school conversation. Y'all can check out the Old School Show with myself and the star Roddy Rod every fourth Thursdays at 12 a.m. Every fourth Thursday at 12 a.m. And last but not least, we have Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B, where we talk about anything relationship related topics like love, dating, relationships, cheating, the good and the bad, and many more. And y'all can check out this spin-off series, Date Night Talk Podcast, every second and third Thursday at 12 p.m. So look out for MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast Presents spin-off series Thursday, a conversation about music podcast every first Thursdays. The Old School Show with myself and the Star Riding Rod every fourth Thursdays, and Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B every second and third Thursdays. And y'all can check out MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast every Sundays for the main series and every Thursday for spin-off series Thursdays. And thank y'all for checking out this commercial break. And now back to your regularly scheduled program. True. I just want to take the time and thank everybody for tuning into the latest episode of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you to my special guest, Miss Reena Friedman for coming on the show. Thank you for telling us about your life journey, everything that you've done, and everything. It really was an amazing episode, and thank you for sharing on MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And everybody check out Better Call Daddy Podcast on all podcast platforms. And y'all can look out for me on a future episode of Better Call Daddy Podcast in 2024. So look out for that. And yeah. And y'all already know I'm at every week. MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Every Sunday for the main series. And every Thursday for spin-off series Thursdays, where we have shows like a conversation about music podcast every first Thursday at 12 p.m. Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Vanna B every second and third Thursday at 12 p.m. And the Old School Show with myself and the Star Riding Rod every fourth Thursday at 12 p.m. Spin-off series Thursday return in December. So look out for that. You can check out MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and any more. Y'all can rate the show 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and Podchasers. The more y'all rate the show, the more people know about MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. If you want to be a guest on MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast for the main series, season 7, or any of the spin-off series Thursday shows, y'all can send me a bio about yourself and everything that you do to my email, Ken, YPGENT@gmail.com, or hit me up on social media, Ken_MrGentleman. I repeat, Ken, KEN _Mr. MR Gentleman, GENTLEMAN. And we can set something up because I am looking for guests for the main series and the spin-off series Thursday shows. And y'all already know what time it is. It's time for everybody's favorite segments. It's time for MrGentleman Lifestyle Shoutouts, where I shout out 4 or 5 shows and we give them their flowers. This week, we're going to shout out 4 shows. And the first show that we're going to shout out is, of course, Better Call Daddy Podcast. She was just my guest on this episode, Miss Reena Friedman, where she interviewed many guests, telling about, asking about their life journey and many more. And then at the end of every show, her father gives his reaction on the interview, and it drops some knowledge on the show. And I really like that concept. And check out Better Call Daddy podcast on all podcast platforms. This next show is a shout out that I gave last season, but she deserves a shout out because she just got a new season out right now. We got Chronicle of a Virgo podcast hosted by Jaquita Johnson. And y'all already know she discussed many topics. And y'all already know I love her show. I've been on her show last season, and I'm happy to see her back. And she's about to do really big things this season. So check out a Chronicles of a Virgo podcast. Season 3 is out now. This next podcast show that I'm about to mention is he's about to be a guest on in December. Is the Geeky Dad podcast, where they talk about many things for shows, movies, and many more. He do it with his kids, and this is always a really dope show. Shout out to Raphael from the Geeky Dad podcast. He also got 2 spin-off shows called Geeky Dad After Dark with him and his wife, and the Multiverse Kids show that was his kids show. Check out all those shows on the Geeky Dad universe, and look out for him on MrGentleman Like That podcast in December. And the last show that I'm about to mention is One Mike Black History, hosted by Michael, aka Country Boy, and he discussed many Black History facts. And this is a really educational show. And if y'all want to know anything that's going on in history, y'all can check out his show, because he be on point with all his history facts. So look out for that as well. Check out these last 4 shows that I just mentioned. Better Call Daddy podcast, Chronicles of a Virgo, the Geeky Dad podcast, and One Mike Black History. And that is this week with the gentleman like that shout outs. And y'all already know I'm a good podcast, Ken with the gentleman, good podcast to many independent podcasters. You can see what everybody listen to. We can rate each other's shows, and we had the charts. And of course, we got the gentleman like the achievements, and not really much to say because my show had not really been on the charts since I haven't not put out no episode. But thank you everybody that continue to listen and support Mr. Gentleman like the podcast. I guess continue to listen so we can get back on the charts, and that's all I have for that. And also check out the official website of Mr. Gentleman like the podcast, www.realmrgentlemanlikethepodcast.com, where y'all can listen to every episode of Mr. Gentleman Like the Podcast. Y'all can watch every video on Mr. Gentleman Like the Podcast, from the audio versions from Mr. Gentleman Like the Podcast TV, from the Mr. Gentleman Fact Quote of the Day, and many more. And I check out every guest appearances that I've been on. Every guest appearance, I got new guest appearances coming real soon. And I check out every guest profile who's been on my show. We have 63 guests now. So you gotta check out everybody's profile, including Reena Friedman Watts as well. And also, we have merch. Check out the MrGentleman Like That Podcast store at tpublic.com, or y'all can buy it through the websites. We have shirts, hoodies, masks, mugs, and many more. So support Mr. Gentleman Like That Podcast through the merch store. It really means a lot. And check out the official website, www.realmrgentlemanlikethepodcast.com. And once again, thank y'all for tuning in to the latest episode of Mr. Gentleman Like The Podcast. Have a good day or night, wherever you're listening to this episode. Oh yeah, and by the way, happy Thanksgiving to your family.
This is Paige from the Badass Fabulous podcast, and you're listening to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast.